I really love my kid, Astrid. I'm so super proud of them and all that they've accomplished in their young life so far. This year, they graduated with a bachelor's degree in music technology, got an internship at the premier live bluegrass radio show anywhere, Wood Songs.
Here on the Louisiana Hayride, his name is Hank Williams.
Where they've been learning to do everything from grip and tech work to radio and TV directing. They're also doing freelance audio and video editing for a record company, playing cello professionally, and they've been involved in the local art scene since their participation in the Prohibition Arts Collective while still in high school. Astrid even helped to paint this mural. I mean, the kid's killing it. So when I decided that I needed to have a season 2 of the albums I've missed, and that it needed to include some albums made, this century, it seemed like an excellent opportunity to work closely with Astrid for the whole project, from the choosing of the albums all the way to co-hosting the show. Plus, it gave Astrid a task that specifically involved critically listening to music every week for 6 months. Good practice for an up-and-coming engineer and producer. The genres of music we covered in Season 2 were a lot more diverse than what I'd covered in Season 1. Pop punk to hip-hop to R&B to hyperpop to indie rock, handful of top-tier divas, even a full month looking only at metal. Or mostly metal anyway, depending on who you ask. So, here are a few highlights from Season 2. I gotta say, there were a lot of albums in Season 2 that had amazing moments, right? Play in the Sunshine from Sign of the Times. Night Vision from Discovery. Saber-Toothed Tiger from Thank You, Happy Birthday. But there were 2 albums I found myself most engaged with, beginning to end. The first was the self-titled album by Bon Iver. My admiration for this album wasn't anything I could easily quantify or even understand. There was a lot about the kind of music on this album that I typically wouldn't be drawn to. But I still found myself listening to it more than usual over the course of the week, finding myself in some sort of sympathetic resonance with its vibe. Damn hippie. The other album that really got me was Norman Funding, Rockwell by Lana Del Rey. Haven't seen you around here lately. My first spin of that one was just as much of a punch to the gut as my first spin of Joni Mitchell's Blue. Now, don't get me wrong, Joni's got a lot more emotional complexity, honesty, and transparency than Lana Del Rey, and a lot of the songs on Norman Feeding Rockwell depend very heavily on pop culture references, sarcasm, and irony. But once I saw through to what she was actually saying, it hit me pretty dang hard. Something very surprising happened when I released episode 43, Baby Metal. The number of views I got for that one far exceeded anything I've ever released on my channel before or since. I don't know what it is about Baby Metal fans, but they don't screw around. And I'm super glad so many of them found it. The one, arigatou gozaimasu. Kuso taku. When I made the decision that for Season 2 I was going to buy every album I looked at, I thought it might be cool visual to start each album by dropping the needle on the actual album. But what happened was that changed the timing of when the music would come in, right? Since it wouldn't make any sense to have the music playing before I dropped the needle. But what happened with this change is that it gave me an opening to play around with all kinds of stuff with the music.
Well, for starters, I decided that I would include vocals for every piece, which is something I did not do for Season 1, but always have them pitched down a minor third so that I sounded heavier.
And from there, honestly, the inspirations for the songs came from pretty much everywhere. Some were pretty obvious. For example, when I was talking about Panic at the disco, it seemed pretty obvious to me that you need to do the music in the style of Widespread Panic.
Oh well, imagine that I'm pacing the pews in a church corridor.
And Sophie's album had a song called Pony Boy, so obviously. Other others, though, were more stream of consciousness. Bon Iver feels very NPR adjacent to me, so I did their tune in the style of an all things considered news break.
What a mischief you would bring, young darling, when the onus is not all.
I did 22 by Taylor Swift in the style of an Arnold Schoenberg tone poem.
It feels like a perfect night to dress up like hipster.
Soft rock Daft Punk.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us.
Britney Spears in the style of Devo.
I think I did it again. I made you believe.
But my favorite from season 2 has to be Prince's I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man in the style of Joe's Garage by Zappa.
It was only last June when her old man ran away. She couldn't stop crying.
That one was fun. There were 2 albums in season 2 that, I'm sorry, I need to call out for special attention. Ooh, some of y'all not gonna like this. First, there's the Die Antwoord album Donker Mag. How can I explain this in the most polite way possible? Okay, if for every album I looked at for the show, I were to create a Venn diagram representing on one area the qualities that I find compelling about music, and on the other area the qualities exhibited in the album Donker Mag by Die Antwoord, the overlapping area of that graph would be the smallest for any album I looked at, by a good amount. Like, it very well could be 0. The other album I need to discuss here is The Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails. And let me preface what I'm about to say by stating that there have been some Trent Reznor things that I've heard and really admired. His music for the Watchmen series, for example, that was pretty great. Let me also say that I've since heard interviews with Trent Reznor, and from those, I got the impression that he's probably a decent guy. But the thing is, The Downward Spiral made me very angry. The entire thing felt mean-spirited, cruel, and generally callous and awful. And I know a lot of people have very strong positive feelings about that album, but honestly, the more I learned about the process that went into it, kind of the angrier I got. Look, he bought the house that was the site of the Manson family murders, named it The Pig Studios, and recorded the album there. And that's enough of that. I want to wrap things up by talking a bit more about the album Destroy, Erase, Improve for the episode I did in Metal Month. This was definitely my favorite of the 5 albums I looked at for Metal Month, and pretty close to being my favorite album of the entire season. Easily the most impressive musicianship of anything I looked at the season, by a lot. But beyond that, the Meshuggah episode has one of my favorite stories of Astrid's childhood. I won't repeat it here, it's too long a story, but when I think back to the time when that story takes place and project forward to the young adult that Astrid has grown into, well, it makes this dad here a lot proud. Sure do love you. More soon.